In the late 18th century, the island of Hong Kong remained a quiet, rugged periphery of the Qing Empire, a collection of fishing hamlets and pirate havens, nestled within the sprawling maritime network of the Pearl River Delta. This rocky outpost was defined by its relationship to the great trading port of Canton, serving as a seasonal shelter for mariners navigating the complex currents of the South China Sea. It was a landscape shaped by the monsoon winds, the salt trade, and the constant tension between the imperial authority of Beijing and the defiant seafaring communities of the southern coast. During this period, Hong Kong stood on the precipice of a transformation that would eventually turn this barren rock into one of the most significant intersections of global power. The world beyond these shores was shifting rapidly as European mercantile interests began to press relentlessly against the isolationist policies of the Qing dynasty. The tensions between the old world of imperial mandates and the new world of global trade were stretching the social fabric of the region to its breaking point, setting the stage for a colonial encounter that would redefine the future of Asia. In this exploration, we utilize modern generative tools alongside period maps, nautical charts, and traditional inkwash paintings to reconstruct Hong Kong as it existed before the arrival of the British. By synthesizing these historical artifacts, we are able to move through spaces that were never captured by a camera lens, navigating the inlets, villages, and mountain passes as they were seen by the people of the 1700s. The goal is not merely to look back at the past, but to step inside it, to walk through the narrow lanes of Stanley, stand upon the heights of Victoria Peak, before the mansions, and sail into a harbour filled with junk boats rather than skyscrapers. If you stay with us until the end, we will bridge the gap of 3 centuries by overlaying these reconstructed scenes with the modern-day skyline. We will return to these exact coordinates in the present to see what the tide of time has washed away, and what fragments of the 18th century soul still linger beneath the steel and glass of the contemporary metropolis. The journey begins on the water, where the true life of 1700s Hong Kong resided. The Pearl River Delta was a labyrinth of silt and salt, a liquid highway where the Tanka people lived out their entire lives on wooden decks. To the Qing officials in the distant north, these water people were a marginalized class. Yet they were the masters of this geography. Looking across the harbour of what we now call Aberdeen, or Shek Pai Wan, the air is thick with the scent of drying fish and burning incense from the small shrines perched on the prows of boats. These vessels are not just transport. They are floating ancestral homes, cluttered with nets, cooking pots, and the rhythmic sound of oars cutting through the brackish water. Moving inland toward the village of Stanley, then known as Chek Chue, we encounter a different pace of life. The name, meaning red pillar, refers to the vibrant flowers of the silk cotton trees that dotted the landscape. Here, the architecture is humble but resilient, granite walls and tiled roofs, designed to withstand the fury of the seasonal typhoons. The streets are unpaved, winding between small patches of incense trees, whose fragrant resin was one of the few valuable exports of the region. This was the origin of the name Fragrant Harbor. Farmers tend to terraced plots on the hillsides, carving out a living from the thin, acidic soil, while the smoke from kitchen fires drifts upward toward the peaks that remain perpetually shrouded in mist. As the 18th century progressed, the strategic value of the harbour became impossible to ignore. The deep, sheltered waters between the island and the mainland provided a perfect anchorage for the massive tea clippers and opium ships that would soon dominate the horizon. In these years, however, the primary threat was not a foreign navy. But the legendary pirate fleets of the South China Sea, the notorious Cheng Ai Sao and her Red Flag fleet commanded hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of sailors, creating a shadow government that levied taxes on every village along the coast. Standing on the southern cliffs of the island, one might have seen the formidable sight of a pirate flotilla emerging from the fog, a reminder that in this era, power was often measured by the number of cannons on a deck rather than the decrees of an emperor. The social heart of these communities was the Tin Hau Temple, dedicated to the goddess of the sea. These structures were the anchors of the spiritual world. Inside, the light is dim, filtered through thick clouds of sandalwood smoke. Heavy bronze bells and intricately carved wooden altars tell the stories of sailors who survived storms and merchants who found fortune. The temple was more than a place of worship. It was a communal hall where disputes were settled and news from the mainland was shared. Outside the temple gates, the village square serves as a marketplace where the produce of the land meets the harvest of the sea. Salt, harvested from the nearby marshes of Lantau, is traded for grain, while itinerant storytellers recount tales of the Three Kingdoms to a captive audience of laborers and children. By the late 1700s, the friction between the Qing authorities and the British East India Company was intensifying. The Canton system restricted all foreign trade to a small strip of land in Guangzhou. But the demand for Chinese tea, silk, and porcelain in London was insatiable. Hong Kong, with its proximity to the mouth of the river, became a silent witness to this escalating economic war. Foreign ships began to linger longer in the outer waters, their captains eyeing the deep-water harbour with a mixture of frustration and ambition. The peaceful isolation of the island was being eroded by the gravity of global markets. We see the first signs of this shift in the increased presence of imperial coastal forts, equipped with aging cannons that looked out toward a horizon that was no longer empty. The landscape of the island itself was a stark contrast to the verdate gardens of Suzhou or the grand avenues of Beijing. It was a world of granite and scrub, of steep ravines and hidden waterfalls. The climb to the high ridges of the island reveals a panoramic view of the entire archipelago. From this height, one can see the complex network of trade routes connecting the delta to the wider world. To the west lies Lantau, dominated by the peaks and monasteries that offered a spiritual retreat from the chaotic life of the coast. To the north, the mountains of the new territories stretched toward the mainland, where the lineage villages of the Punti and Hakka people maintained fortified walled cities to protect their ancestral lands from bandits and rivals. As the sun begins to set over the 1700s harbour, the sky turns a deep violet, reflecting off the calm waters. The lanterns on the junk boats are lit one by one, creating a constellation of flickering lights across the bay. It is a moment of deceptive stillness. Within a few decades, the first shots of the Opium Wars will echo through these hills. The Treaty of Nanjing will be signed, and the British flag will be raised at Possession Point. The small fishing villages will be cleared to make way for the stone warehouses of Jardine Matheson and the colonial administrative buildings of Victoria City. The incense trees will be cut down, and the terraced farms will be paved over with the foundations of a global financial hub. Coming back to the present, we stand on the same shoreline where the Tanka people once mended their nets. The water has been pushed back by massive land reclamation projects. Where there were once waves, there are now the subterranean tunnels of the MTR and the towering heights of the International Finance Center. The quiet sounds of the 18th century coast, the creak of wooden hulls and the calls of seabirds have been replaced by the roar of traffic and the hum of millions of lives in motion. Yet, if you look closely, the geography still speaks. The steep incline of the streets in Central follows the same paths the woodcutters took up the mountain. The Tin Hau temples, now squeezed between high-rises, remain as vibrant pockets of tradition, their incense still rising to the same goddess who protected the mariners of the 1700s. The story of Hong Kong is one of constant reinvention, a cycle of destruction and rebirth that began long before the first skyscraper was built. By reconstructing this lost century, we see that the city's identity was never fixed. It was always a place defined by movement, by those who arrived by sea seeking a new beginning. The rugged island we see in these images is the foundation upon which the modern miracle was built. A reminder that even the most permanent-looking structures of our world are just the latest layer in a history that continues to pass, flow like the tides of the Fragrant Harbor. What city or era should we reconstruct next? Let us know in the comments which part of history you would like to walk through. If you enjoyed this journey through time, consider subscribing to see more historical reconstructions. For now, we leave you with these final comparisons of the world that was and the world that is.